All right, hello everyone. Today, Dr. Reese and I are here to talk more about pets. I recently did an episode on pet health, and Dr. Reese watched that episode and he says, "Hey Ryan, I have some stuff to add to that episode." So here we are, and I don't think Dr. Reese needs much introduction at this point because he's been on the podcast before, but very quickly, he's a PhD, he's a postural specialist, he's a author of several books, and especially his book Peace Over Pain. I love recommending that as a introduction to our whole concept here of alternative health. He's recently had two more books come out, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, but I've got some good feedback already. And anyways, Dr. Reese is here. He's committed to whole body health, head to toe healing, he calls it. Not just
Yes.
nutrition, not just posture. It's taking everything that we know about alternative health and putting it together as closely as we can. So, thank you for coming today, Dr. Reese,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to hear what you have to add because I thought that episode it was pretty good. It was pretty complete to me.
I have a lot of questions for you, actually. Because the thing that's so mind-blowing to me is that I'm going to use dog. I've never owned a cat, so I'm going to stay with dogs here. You can have a dog live to their 15 years old on kibble. And that goes against what a lot of people say, feed the dog raw food, feed the dog nutrients, feed the dog this or that. And it's like, what's the X factor? Is it the stomach acid? Would you say it's the stomach acid?
What do you mean by X factor?
What's making a dog live to 15 years old on kibble, which people say is horrible?
And even
Now
though
that
kibble isn't perfect, still, yeah, it's a very good question, and that's the stance that we've had forever, Dr. Wallach and myself. Only until recently, I started wavering on this a little bit. We've always said just feed them kibble and nothing but kibble, and they should be fine. Yeah, my mom's dogs live to 18, 19 years old on just kibble, nothing special, and table scraps even. Broke the rules. Is it
Yes,
stomach acid? Is it because there's enough salt in the food?
that's what I wonder. That's what I wonder. Because some dogs don't do as well on a raw food diet. Some
Especially in
people,
digestion. You can see it quickly. They're having diarrhea and just all kinds of discomfort, and they're rejecting certain
right,
foods.
right, right. So it's quite a topic. Quite a topic.
And it's super interesting to me that, at least in the cat, at the very end of the episode there, the record holder for the longest lived cat right now was fed coffee and wine, not huge amounts of it, but like given human food and drink on top of their normal uh, kibble diet, and they still outlived every other cat. So I said in that episode that, not everything that we have done to extend lifespan in humans has been natural, quote unquote, right? People think, oh, it's got to be natural. If it's not natural, that means it's not part of our plan here. We shouldn't use that. Meanwhile, a lot of things that we've done have not been natural, all the way to using fire. I mentioned that being key, using fire, key to our development, key to our continued dominance of this planet. And so it's got to be the same with the pets, right? Would those dogs and cats live to 15, 19 out in the wild? Absolutely not. And it's not just because of predation. It's because we are able to concentrate things in a way that nature isn't. Animals like elephants and moose and stuff, they will travel massive distances to new grazing lands and stuff to get minerals. Elephants will go deep under caves to get minerals, but that can only go so far. They can't use fire. They can't use technology to concentrate things. Even things like
Right,
making juices. Juices are not natural. You could
right.
not consume 20 or 60 pounds of produce a day. Physically impossible. You can only do that through juicing. So that's not natural.
My parents' dog lived to 15 and ate kibble, a so-called high quality kibble, with pumpkin puree, romaine lettuce, and lots of carrots.
Bit
It was
odd.
like it was like a mix. And My neighbor had a dog that just died at 1 years old from liver cancer.
From kibble or raw food?
I don't know what he was feeding him yet. I gotta find out. It's just it's a little sensitive, so I'm not gonna
Of
be like, "Hey,
course.
man, what were you feeding him?" But um, I'm just kind of exploring the two sides of the spectrum. One can just die right away, and then one can go to 15 on kibble. It's easy to say that the puppy that died was, you know, could have been born with nutritional deficiencies, um, deficiency to the embryo, perhaps. But it's just so interesting to see this whole kibble thing. And I know Dr. Wallach is very adamant about kibble because correct me if I'm wrong, but what he's saying is they're changing the game because you're basically feeding the dog a supplement. The supplement's in the food.
It's built
It's
into it, yeah.
it's built into it. So the dogs are getting more nutrients from the kibble than they would from a regular diet. And that's what Dr. Wallach is saying. And, he's a world-class veterinarian. So,
Well, it's not just total nutrients as well. It's the nutrient ratio to calories. So there's high nutrients, relatively low calories in the dog food, or at least the proportion is figured out. So the theory here that we've been saying for many years is that if you give them more calories, especially in dense calorie things like meat, then now they have more calories for the same amount of nutrition. So the ratio has been pulled away. But with some
mm,
of those things, like in that cat, being fed a little bit of wine, a little bit of coffee, a little bit of this and that, those aren't really high calorie things. So I think that matters as well. People who do feed their animals a lot of meat and raw meat and organs and stuff, that is high calorie. One. Number two, it does also deplete calcium because it's high in phosphorus. So they're throwing
yeah,
off the
the
calcium to
balance isn't there.
phosphorus. Those
Yeah.
two ratios, nutrients to total calories and calcium to phosphorus, really, really important. And you're not going to throw that off much with carrots, right? Not at all. But you're going to
No.
throw it off big time with meat.
So the ratios are way easier to manage with kibble.
Yeah, well, you don't have to think about it at all.
What about a lot of kibble has oils in there?
True. And they're going to be oxidized. It's a guarantee that they're going to be oxidized. And there's no omega-3 in them. And I'm suspecting that most of the B vitamins will also have been destroyed by the heating because they're superheated and they're double heated. They're double cooked, a lot of them, especially the dry foods. So almost all of the B vitamins that are on the label are probably destroyed unless they add them after, but I don't think they do. I should have looked that up in the meantime between these two episodes here, but they're baking it all as a thing together. They're not adding in the vitamins after. Nobody's corrected me on that. I'll look further into the manufacturing process here, but unless they add them in at the very, very end after they've been cooked, then they would just be a coating on top of the dry food, or I guess mixed in with the wet food after. I really doubt they actually do this because if not, then those vitamins are destroyed. So are the enzymes.
Mm. Mm.
So they're getting inferior food. They are. They are. We can't say that dog food is perfect. That's something we've misspoken on before. They put a lot of minerals in it. That's the key here. This has to be the key is the minerals because almost everything
Mm.
else is going to be compromised. The oils are oxidized, definitely, no question. The vitamins and all that stuff are degraded, if not destroyed completely. So what you're left with is the minerals to calories. That really is almost all that's left in there.
Hmm.
And that is imperfect, but it's better than just giving them food alone. Take the whatever the food ingredients are, feed just those food ingredients to the dog, you're going to get a sick dog very quick. And it's going to
Have you
die. It's
looked
going
at
to die young.
have you looked at some of the upscale foods out there, like the farmer's dog or Ali or any of those?
I don't see any major differences in the nutrient counts. The differences seem to be in the quality of the food to start with. So they'll be
Yeah.
like, bison. We got bison in our food or organic grass-fed beef. That's their
Mm.
selling point. But the nutritional components, like the types of nutrients that are in it and the counts of the nutrients are basically the same. And they all have holes in it. I've never seen a perfect dog food or cat food.
Yeah, and one of the plugs with kibble, one of the selling points they say, or one of the negatives of kibble, I should say, is that there's too many carbs in there, too much sugar.
Yeah, well, there's no reason to be adding sugar in the first place.
Yeah.
But even still, even with that inadequate diet, they're still living beyond 10 years old perfectly fine for most of them. You don't even see a lump come up until they're around 10 or older. So that's very, very, very good. And I think we could improve it, but for the most part, if you stick to that, you shouldn't have much of a problem. And we do have some young dogs come to us, by the way. You know, we're not animal specialists, but people ask us about animals just like humans. And we do occasionally get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old dogs and cats. And usually they are eating kibble, by the way. But it's usually one of those higher end ones. You know, just we kind of default our audience is more health conscious and stuff. And yeah, they most of them are already on high end dog food or cat food and have been on it for a long time. I suspect a big part of the problem here is multi-generational. As I did mention in the last episode, a lot of this has gone into the hands of private breeders. So you're not just getting, you know, bigger companies that deal with hundreds of dogs at once and feed them all kibble for their whole lifetime. You're getting private breeders now, especially in purebreds, that do largely a lot of them feed them raw or they skew their diet in some way. They don't just give them kibble. And now we're in like third, fourth generation of this where these animals are not healthy to start with.
Right.
So I think we've seen this in humans as well, right? Nutritional degeneration over generations, generational degeneration where each generation is being born weaker and then giving birth to even weaker children. And so we're more susceptible than our parents were to the same pressures, right? I'm a lot more intolerant to gluten than my mom is. She's a lot more intolerant than her mom was. You know, go back 5 generations, this probably wasn't even an issue. And of course, the plant has changed and all that other stuff, but we've been
Yeah.
getting born weaker and weaker each generation. And this is definitely happening with dogs. I don't know about cats so much, but definitely with dogs.
So what I've been working on is a protocol for cats and dogs. And my feeling is that there's something in between kibble and the raw food diet.
Hmm.
And that's a home cooked diet. And you know, I'm a really big fan of the pressure cooker. We teach all the clients pressure cooking, pressure cooking, pressure cooking. So my feeling is that if you put the right ingredients in a pressure cooker once a week, you can essentially meal prep for your dog or cat, putting it in the glass Tupperware containers, throwing it in the fridge. And then when you take it out for that day, then you mix in the nutrients. We got the nutrients from good old Richard Renton.
Hmm.
He's got the nutrients. They're in the form of a powder. So then you top off that home cooked meal with the nutrients, mix it in, and then you're giving your dog or cat something I think that you can be proud of. Not kibble and not raw, right in between. What do you think about that?
I think that's how we've come to dominate, not by eating raw foods. This is how we've conquered. This is how we have such a impressive longevity and resilience and everything like this. It's not by eating raw. It's definitely not by eating 100% processed, but it is by using certain processing and intelligence to put more nutrients in our food. You know, even before we had a supplement industry, people still like traveled down from the mountains where they lived, you know, hundreds of miles to the sea to go and get fish eggs or trade with other people for fish eggs and seaweed and stuff. Just we have this remarkable ability to source materials and put them together in ways that they don't appear in nature. So a dog isn't going to be able to do that either. So yeah, do the same thing we've done and that we do with our human customers and ourselves is mix some of the raw food. We need some raw foods. We need some cooked foods. Some nutrients are more available in foods that are cooked, and so on. We use all this, and we put more nutrients in because there's still not enough minerals in our soil primarily, and some things are very tough to get, like omega-3s. If you don't live from the sea, basically, you're not getting enough omega-3s. It's going to be exceptionally difficult to do that. So when we put our knowledge together in the same way that we have with humans, and this is we're kind of coming full circle here, right? Because a lot of this stuff was figured out for animals. It was
Right.
for the animal industries because the animal industries were losing money because of depleted soils and random distribution of nutrients and minerals in soils. This was causing a random distribution of successful farms and stuff. They needed to figure this out. They did figure it out. And then it took Dr. Wallach to bring that into the human world. And now we've got to go back because over the last decades, the animal industries, at least the pet industry, has really fallen off of the knowledge that took billions of dollars and thousands of careers to figure this out already. They've gone and thrown all that out the window and switched to a raw food diet for some reason, which never had any evidence behind it for long-term survivability and longevity and disease resistance. Raw food was never the way to go. There's some good points in the raw food diet. Yeah, I'm going long-winded here. I agree with
Well,
you.
I
Do the
see.
same thing.
Based on what I've seen, the raw food diet essentially helps dogs turn their health around. But it's kind of like back in my detox days. I had amazing testimonials. But now that I look back on it, I'm saying, was it the detox that got the testimonial, that got the result? Or was it because I took them off the poor four foods and didn't realize it?
Yeah, probably because you got them off the main bad foods.
That's right.
All
So
diets have that in common, most of them.
I,
You
I
go keto,
think
carnivore, or vegan, you're going to get off of most of the poor four foods right there.
that's right. And then boom, your body starts to heal. So I think that's what a lot of people are experiencing with their pet. Their pet isn't feeling good. Their pet is sick. Boom. They give them a raw food diet. They're giving them the raw liver. They're giving them the raw, chicken feet. They're giving them the raw ground beef or what have you. And boom, their dog feels better in a week.
And it probably has a lot to do with the enzymes in the raw foods. And I've recommended raw eggs for sick dogs and cats for a long time, by the way, years. Switch to a gluten-free dog food, pop in some raw eggs, depending on the body weight, tell you how many, put a frequency tuning disc on, and that's it. And you can add some supplements, you can add some minerals. In our case, it's the fertilizer I usually recommend, just the raw rinds of the humic shale.
Mm,
Works great. And I think the enzymes are a big part of that, yeah. But I think the dog food and cat food industries have a big problem here. This idea of shelf life, this is a part of the biggest problem in human food as well. The idea of having shelf life. We're not
yeah,
supposed to have shelf life. You have to
no.
kill a food to give it shelf life, basically. You have to remove its value, most of it. Minerals aren't going to go anywhere, but your vitamins are, your enzymes are, especially if you've got to superheat it before doing it. You're going to cause oxidation. It's just a big problem. I wonder, could we get a dog to 30 years old? I think we could if it were done
Wow.
actually properly. But what we've got here is a good enough system in the same way that farmers use nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium because it's a good enough system. It maximizes their yields without spending too much money. There's a sweet spot there. You could get higher yields if you added more minerals, but it costs too much. So they put enough in there to maximize their yield for the money that they're putting in. And it's the same with dog food. We can make dog food very, very cheap. And to me, 15 years is great. That is great. But the
No,
problem is these animals now in recent generations, a lot of them are becoming sick a lot younger. They're not living to 15 anymore. A lot of them. It is
right.
becoming rarer and rarer. And I think that is a combination of generational degeneration, certain standards slacking off in the dog food industries, breeders using raw foods, and EMF, increasing EMF everywhere. This has
Well, I
happened
would.
in the last 10 years, especially, just gone out of control where every single house has Wi-Fi. Every human being has a phone on a microwave on them. So it's emitting microwaves from all different angles of the house in most of these houses. And this is affecting the animals too. And to me, it's no wonder that they're getting weaker.
Yeah, I would also inject that posture. The musculoskeletal alignment is a factor. A lot of the owners are not letting the dogs exercise. They're not letting them walk around. And if you have a Labrador or you have a German Shepherd or a Doberman, they need to run. And so we're seeing a lot of hip issues in these medium to upper dogs.
And they don't need 5 minutes of running either. They need hours. They have
Yes,
tons of energy.
yes, yes, yeah. And, there's a new phenomenon of small dogs. I call it teddy bear syndrome. And, a lot of people just want something to cuddle with. And those dogs don't need a lot of running. They just run around the living room and there you go. But if you have a German Shepherd, man, you better let that dog fly. That dog needs to fly around, man, a lot,
Mhm.
or their hips will go.
Yeah, I said in the last episode that it's a big problem to me having dogs in apartments. But what I should have said is, yeah, medium and large dogs. That's where it
Yeah,
really, really becomes a problem. Your teacup poodle or chihuahua or Shih Tzu,
yeah,
yes, they have plenty of space to run around your living room, even in a one bedroom or bachelor apartment. They have room. And they're cheaper to feed. When we're talking about doing a lot of this stuff, this starts to get expensive. We know that taking care of ourselves properly isn't the cheapest proposition in the world. And if you
right,
know this and you care about the lifespan and disease rates of your pets, then you have to do this too. And I said in that episode that I don't even want a dog. I don't want to take this responsibility because I know too much now. You can't go back on this.
right,
I,
right,
I I know that they need more nutrients that are in the food and all this stuff, and I just don't want to do it. I don't want to take on that much cost and expense. And there's a lot of people who are willing to do it cheap, and they want to do it cheap. They don't really care if the dog dies at 9 years old, and that's one thing. But you do have a lot of people who care, and that's why they're coming to us. And unfortunately, I think we've gone way too far with this pet owning thing, especially since a lot of people are busy, chronically busy. They live in the city suburbs. They're always hustling from one place to another. There's not enough time in the day to properly let the dog exercise, so it could get skeletal problems later.
yep,
There's
yep,
not enough money in the budget to do all this stuff that we're talking about here, especially for a large dog. You're talking about thousands of dollars a month probably to feed
yep.
a large dog, and
A
either way,
mastiff,
yeah, oh yeah, it's way more than just kibble either way. You're buying meat for it or you're breeding rats for it to eat or something. I mean, this starts to get out of control quick, and a lot of people will roll their eyes. And so that's your choice then. Accept the suboptimal health of the animals that's in your responsibility. Accept the possibility of them dying early, which a lot of people do. They don't care. It's not a big deal to them. Especially I live in the country. It's not a big deal. You can get another dog for free, probably. Another barn dog. It's okay if it only lives to 6, basically. It just doesn't matter. But for a lot of people, it does. It matters big. And maybe you shouldn't be entering into that responsibility. I don't want to do it myself.
yeah, understood. I think one of the raw foods that we could be giving dogs a lot more, and cats, of course, is sardines.
Cooked, though, right?
Either or, really. Um,
Well, remember,
cook,
raw sardines have
cook.
thiaminase, which
That's
destroys
right.
thyme.
That's right. They'll lose their B1.
So you got to cook them,
Yeah, cook your sardines and make sure you get them with no oil.
like in tomato sauce or water, right?
Yeah, but sardines is an excellent way for the animal to get those essential fatties.
And they're cheap too, eh? What's a can run these days?
A buck and a half, maybe $2.
And that is excellent for a smaller dog
Definitely a cat.
and a cat. Yeah.
Yeah, cats love fish. It's not just a stereotype. And of course, liver. Liver is a great idea too.
I've really been thinking about this since the last episode, especially that coffee thing, being that cat given coffee and wine and living longest. I'm like, that's really interesting actually, because coffee and wine, they both have a lot of controversy. There's a lot of studies that say it helps, a lot of studies that say it doesn't help. But I did a coffee episode a while ago, and overall, the consensus was more positive than negative, I think, by my reading of it. So there's more benefits than cons. And so if it benefits us long term, why wouldn't it benefit a cat? A dog and a cat are they're quite similar anatomically. There's not major differences. They don't have 4 stomachs or anything. They don't have gills or anything. They're
Right.
pretty similar physiology, pretty similar digestion system, and we
Yeah.
need all the same nutrients. There's no real major differences there except the quantities that we need.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting to me how much pumpkin puree helps dogs. It seems to be across the board. people feeding their dogs pumpkin puree right out of a can.
What do you think that is? The vitamin E or what?
It could be vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin C, but it's a lot of fiber going through.
Hmm.
So, maybe it's just pushing things along better. If you
You know,
if you give your animal high meat, high protein, high fat, and then some pumpkin puree is like their quote unquote vegetables, right? It just kind of moves everything through.
what kind of things have you seen people use pumpkin puree for with the dog?
Just put it right in the dog bowl.
But for what kind of problems?
Oh, I don't see it for problems. I see it them just giving it to them standard.
Okay.
Yeah. For the dogs that live, 14, 15, 16 years. That's what my parents gave their dog. I mean, I forgot who told them. Somebody told them, a vet or something. And from that point forward, pumpkin puree right out of a can. Right out of the can.
So I'm reading a few labels of dog foods. One thing I was looking for is what is their source of fiber in here? One tricky thing, sneaky thing that human food companies do is sometimes they call something fiber, but really it's cellulose, and really that cellulose is basically wood chips.
Mm,
And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but it's a pretty weak form of fiber to me. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of fiber in some of these labels. You see things like barley, or whole grain wheat, and okay, I guess that's got some soybean meal, got a tiny little bit of fiber in there, but not really. 4% fiber here in this one food, 4.5% in this other one. And yeah, a lot of these ingredients are just plain not good. Corn, whole grain corn, corn gluten meal. And it's offset with the good stuff. It's got to be the good ingredients that are pulling all the weight here, like the bone meal, of course,
yeah.
the calcium, salt, zinc, vitamin E, which is probably degraded. The vitamin E is probably degraded in the heating. More zinc. Lots of good stuff in here. Copper. These are all essential nutrients, making up for some of that junk, but I have not seen one label here that didn't have a bunch of junk in it.
Mm. I
But yeah, no
talked to,
fiber
yeah,
is my
and
point. Very little fiber.
the thing that's interesting to me is if you look at the structure of a cat or a dog, they're horizontal, right? We're vertical. So we have a little bit of gravity on our side. And so I think the fiber might help a dog or a cat move things along because their intestines are structured different. They're horizontal.
Never
And so
thought about that.
yeah, this is, looking at the musculoskeletal system, you know, it takes quite a bit of nerves for that peristalsis to kick in, for that peristalsis to move everything along the intestines. And like I said, at least we're vertical, you know? So, but we get people coming through the virtual clinic who, their posture's messed up, so their digestion's messed up, because their stomach's sticking out or, they got a rotated hip. And the same thing can happen to dogs too. But I think the pumpkin puree could help with that because you got all this natural fiber just coming through.
I think so as well, man. I'm still reading labels here and I'm seeing a big emphasis on proteins and not a big emphasis on fiber. And by the way, I'm not an expert here on pet foods too. I haven't had a pet in a long time. We were in the pet industry ages ago, a lifetime ago, but we didn't do dogs and cats and stuff. And I never studied dog food labels. I just knew they had extra nutrients put in it, and they do. But a lot of junk in here. Some of them do have omega-3, by the way, but a pitiful amount. And most of them, the ratio is not there anyways with omega-3 and 6. It's thrown off. And yeah, a lot none of these are adequate, anywhere near adequate. It's great that they got minerals in it, and that's amazing how much that has actually done for their health and longevity, just adding the minerals alone. Just assuming that all these vitamins are destroyed or negligible or not absorbed properly. But yeah, I'd never noticed that they have hardly any fiber in hardly any of these products. 1%, 3%, and I don't know what they're basing that percent on, but it's not 100%. And then you have tons of
So,
junk in here, but you got lots of glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, right? These
yep,
key joint ingredients. This is in
yep,
almost every food.
yep.
That's a great thing.
MSM for the dogs.
Hmm.
So I talked to Richard Renton about the nutrients, and I said, how do you get 90 essential nutrients to these dogs? He said the formula he made gives about 80 something. And he said you can then add in some EFAs.
Which formula is that?
I forgot the name of it.
By the way, Richard Renton is the head formulator of our supplement company.
It's I forgot the name of it, but I think it's the only one, the only powder. It's a weird name.
You mean Arthrodex?
Yes. YGY's got the weirdest names, let me tell you.
Yeah, Arthrodex is weird. So he's got the amino acids in here, a lot of amino acids. Got the beef liver, beef gelatin, yeast. So that's your B complex basically in the yeast. Humic acid mineral blend. Okay, so that's all the trace minerals. Got glucosamine in there, potassium in there, couple of herbs. So is that 80? Well, I guess you get the 60 minerals there. You get all the amino acids. So you're coming close.
Yeah.
Don't think it has all the vitamins, but it's a pretty gigantic boost here. And it does
Yeah.
have enzymes in it. That's why I love that product. It's got enzymes in it.
Yeah. So he said add some EFAs, which could be the cooked sardines, or it could be literally put the EFAs in there. The
And
gel
Arthrodex is a
caps.
pretty reasonable price, hey?
Could a dog chew on a gel cap EFA?
Yeah, you can split them open into their food. Many people do. Many people take the exact human supplements that they take and put them in the dog food, and most dogs have no problem with it at all. Cats can be a little bit pickier, but still, usually they do end up going for it, especially the fish oil. Cats love fish oil.
Mm, yeah.
As a postural specialist, you probably know there's people who do chiropractic for animals. What do you think about this?
It's cringy. Those videos are very cringy to see someone whip a dog's head, like to see like a Rottweiler. Just look at the guy in shock, right?
Hmm.
No, I mean I'm not a big advocate of chiropractors. Their concept is great, but their method is not.
I think they've been overused a little bit too, or a lot.
Yeah, well, they don't focus on muscles, they focus on bones. But
Mm.
bones are moved by muscles.
Yeah, you mentioned this in a previous conversation. So that's the difference between postural therapy, one of the differences between that
Yeah.
and chiropractic, right? Because you're resetting the muscles. So that's where
Yes.
that's where they sit. That's where they hold the bones in place.
Yes. Yeah, bones don't move without those muscles.
Because if you crack your back, but you don't change your musculature or change your posture,
Yeah.
it's gonna come back, right?
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes the chiropractor can help you. Like if something's really out of alignment and they need to pop it back, cool. But it's once, twice a year, I mean, at best.
Hmm.
But their concept is correct. The concept is you need to be in alignment or bad things are going to happen. It's the same as ours.
So you wouldn't do postural therapy for an animal then,
I don't know how you could.
because you got to cooperate with it. You got to physically do the exercises.
Yeah, yeah. I'd have to talk to one of my colleagues to see if they've ever done that. I I can't imagine how you would do that.
So they
Like,
basically just need to go out and do
all
stuff.
right, boo boo, do kneeling counter stretch. Like, all right, downward dog.
Yeah, they're not gonna do it.
Yeah, the dog won't even do downward dog on command, It just does downward dog when it stretches.
So you're saying a lot of the spinal problems that you see, or all of them, especially in dogs, but I'm assuming even cats here, could be alleviated by just letting them be outside more.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon that an outdoor cat would probably do better than an indoor cat.
I know it's subjective too, but I personally believe that indoor animals are a lot dumber as well. They,
Hmm.
they have no reason to use their brain. A lot of cats just get lazy and dumb and they don't have a job to do, you know? Like you see them even in the house, they want to kill bugs and stuff. There's not that much for them to do. Whereas outside they seem happier, they seem healthier, and they definitely seem smarter to me.
Yeah, Ryan, I've been doing a lot of research lately on, I can't speak for cats, but for dogs because I am highly considering getting a dog because with my situation and my status, it's cheaper to get a guard dog than a whole security team.
Mhm.
And so I've been doing a ton of research on what kind of dog I'm going to get, you know, and what's the best one for me, what's the most efficient one for me. I grew up on Labradors and German Shepherds. They shed a lot. I don't want that. So for me, I'm leaning towards a Doberman,
Mhm.
which doesn't shed a lot. It's a great guard dog and is very intelligent. The point that I'm making based off of what you said is that when you get a working dog, they're actually called working dogs. They have a job to do.
And they love doing it.
They love doing it. If
You
you
ever seen a
so
Doberman without a dog without a job to do? That's a sad dog.
if I make this move, then I will have to invest money purposely to get this dog to put it through the training, feed it correctly, and let it do its job for 10 years. And so this is the first time in my life I've ever looked at a dog as not as much of a pet, but as an actual useful entity. Because a
Which is their
buddy of
original
mine,
purpose,
it
right?
is their original purpose. A buddy of mine has a homestead. He built a homestead. He thinks the end of the world's coming. He's got chickens. He's got everything. He's got everything. He's got 3 acres with everything. Goats, the whole 9 yards. He's making goat cheese. Okay. He had an incident where his chickens were murdered. He woke up the next day and they were murdered. Raccoon or coyote or something. So he went out and he got guard dogs. He got Great Pyrenees. I might be pronouncing it wrong.
Oh yeah, they're great.
They're like 100 pounds or more each. They're like 120 pounds. They're very fluffy. They shed a lot. They sleep outside, Ryan.
Oh, they don't want to sleep inside. They don't want to come inside.
It's incredible. And that really opened my eyes to, you're right. Dogs were originally man's best friend because they did a job, not because they cuddled on the couch. And so I started going on YouTube University and I started actually looking it up. And then it came down to, the Doberman, the Rottweiler, the Tibetan Mastiff, which are huge.
Mhm.
Those things are like 200 pounds. The Great Pyrenees. I mean, there's a handful of great working dogs, even a Cane Corso,
Well, you're forgetting about hunting dogs too,
hunting dogs
right?
too. Yeah.
Even cats. Cats are not there to cuddle. They're there to eat mice. You can't have a barn without a cat. It does its job. I mean, we're just so spoiled today. It's just such a weird situation where the most common things that'll come up is like, oh, we need companionship and we need, love and there's a documented benefit that if you have a pet at home, you're more likely to make it out of hospital. Like, so it's there for our mental health. But, like you said, they're not meant to cuddle. What about the dog or the cat in this situation? What a boring life. Oh my goodness, I'm surprised pet suicide isn't higher. Because yeah, these dogs are meant and bred to do something. And aside from the few teacup models that can run around your living room, all the other ones, they need something to do. They want something to do. That's why they're bugging you to go out 10, 20 times a day. That's just what they do. They like being out, they like patrolling, they like killing small animals if that's what they're bred for, which many of them are. And
Right.
your friend just discovered this, his chickens getting killed. Well, we know this up north. Our first summer with chickens, of course, a lynx ate them. That's what happens. You need
Yeah.
dogs and cats as part of your farm repertoire, or
Yeah.
else you're going to be invaded by mice, or you're going to be invaded by coyotes or some other animal that's going to try and take all your stuff. And you need
Right.
those chickens. Come on, these are your responsibility. So, yeah, these animals have always had a practical purpose. It's only now recently that we're so spoiled and sick and isolated and sad that now we're using them to cuddle, and that's a lame life for them. I know we started this talking about their physical and their skeletons and stuff, but yeah, I'm seeing it now. I'm thinking about it now. Like, what
Mhm.
the heck would a dog want to sit around for 18 hours for? They
No,
love being outside.
I love
You
it.
know, our buddy just came up here and visited us, and he brought his dog, and this dog's an apartment dog. Dog's out there having the time of its life. We're in the bush. We're stuck in our up to our knees in snow. We're not having a good time. Dog is having
Yeah.
an absolute blast,
Yeah.
running around in laps, rolling around in the snow. It's as long as it can, sucking up every second of it. And they just love to do that all the time.
Yeah.
And when the dog's in the house, the dog's just sitting there doing nothing. And I don't think that's what it wants to do. It knows that's what it has to do. It's going to get yelled at by us humans because you're not supposed to mess around. This is a Labrador, right? It's a big dog.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to mess around in the house. So be quiet, sit down. And why would a dog want to do that any more than a human wants to do that?
Right. Absolutely. Now you have a lot. You used to work in a pet store, right?
Well, Chef Norman and I, we had a lot of pets, and we bred them, we sold them, we traded them. It wasn't a pet store though.
You did lizards too, right?
Yeah, lizards, snakes, geckos, spiders, tarantulas, stuff like that.
And
Scorpions,
so
and rats and rodents and rabbits and all kinds of stuff like that. Feeder animals
how do you get reptiles and snakes the right nutrients?
by adding powder to their. If you're feeding them crickets or mealworms, you shake them up in a bag full of powder, which is minerals basically. And for mice, you're supposed to feed them stuffed mice, where you stuff them yourself, so they're dead already. Rats and rabbits too, whatever it is you're feeding them, you're supposed to stuff them,
Really?
or you buy them pre-stuffed with vitamins and minerals. Yep. And if you
So
don't do
how
that, most likely your stink's going to stop eating after a while. It might take 6 months, it might take 6 years, but eventually it's just going to stop eating if you only feed it mice. It needs more minerals.
yeah, these animals, they will instinctually they're looking for it, man. I might have shared this story with you before, but I was plant-based for many years, vegan, and I had this limited belief that herbivores are herbivores. And then I saw a video of a cow eating a whole chicken.
Mhm.
Blew my freaking mind. Blew my mind. I was like, "Whoa!" I had to replay it to make sure it was real. And then, the light bulb goes off. That cow was looking for minerals.
Mhm.
It saw a little weak animal that had what it was looking for. Those are bones there, there's soft tissue, there's hard tissue, there's eyeballs, there's organs. It got it all in one shot.
Blood,
Blood too. Yeah.
all the minerals and vitamins that a vertebrate needs is in another vertebrate, raw.
Yeah. Incredible. And then of course, primates. Primates will eat almost anything. There's this illusion, there's this limited belief that they only eat fruit. Maybe they'd prefer to eat fruit, but I see primates eating little monkeys.
You will kill your pet monkey if you feed it only fruit. It's a guarantee. The animal will
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. It just these animals need so much, just like us.
So
But
on
what
the
it
subject of reptiles,
yeah, yeah.
they don't need exercise, by the way. That's the difference. We've tripled, quadrupled their lifespan with no exercise because they don't need exercise. They love doing nothing. Completely different from a dog or a cat. A snake loves doing nothing. It'll do nothing for weeks straight if you let it. And you feed it regularly, it won't even move. It doesn't need to move. And their spine will be fine. and they won't develop tumors or anything like that. They'll be fine.
Wow. What about a bearded dragon?
Nope, they don't need exercise.
Do they need love?
Nope, I don't think so. I think they need some basic form of attention, kind of. Well, they live in a cage. If you just leave them alone in a cage, I don't think they're going to do very well. But I'm not going to take that sentence too far because we've seen some pretty neglected animals, reptiles, live quite a long time. You know, weeks since their heat light has been out and stuff like that. People being lazy with their care, and they're still doing 100% fine. And they're not social creatures, right? Bearded dragons, snakes, they're really not social creatures. They will find a mate during breeding season, and that's basically it. They're hanging out by themselves. And cats too. You know, cats are mostly not social animals, most of them. Some of them are like lions, but even then, a lot of them are not. Most of them are not, I think.
Tigers like to be alone.
Tigers, bobcats, mountain lions, they don't roll in packs.
No, just
They also
lions.
don't have impressive longevity, really, in the grand scheme, but they're not social creatures. Dogs are.
Mm. Dogs are. Wolves too, obviously.
Hmm.
Packs. So how are the reptiles and the animals getting the nutrition in the wild?
In the wild, I think it's mostly due to puddles. That's my
Puddles.
theory here, because a snake can't go into a cave like an elephant and scrape off mineral residue. You know, it can't dig for roots or anything like that. It can only eat and drink. And puddles naturally have more minerals in them and more nutrients because they, leaves and stuff and grasses and roots, they all kind of touch the water, and so they leach some stuff out into the water, possibly some vitamins and stuff, but definitely minerals. And we usually give them tap water at home, right? I'm not talking we personally here, but like pet owners in general usually give them tap water. So that's gonna have poison in it because there's toxic residues of drugs and stuff, and
Mm.
fluoride and chloride. And chlorine's kind of slowly poisoning them. The fluoride is competing with their iodine, which they need, just like we need iodine as well. So you got on one hand a healthier water with more stuff in it, and then on one hand you've got a poison water. And we tend to give them the poison water, or at the very least, we give them barren water with nothing else in it, right? Purified water or something like that. So in the animal industries, yeah, we fix this just by giving them supplements. But out there in the wild, a snake will not take supplements. Unlike many other creatures, many other creatures will dig for clays and they'll eat ashes and they'll do all kinds of other things. Or like you said, a cow will graze and it'll eat an egg if it finds it, and it'll
Hmm.
eat a small bird if it can. If it can,
Hmm.
it'll chew on horns and dirt if it needs to. We know if we see an animal eating dirt and stuff that we need to give it more minerals. But in the wild, they will find some more minerals with dirt. Just a snake cannot do that. And most lizards cannot or will not do that. They will lick some salts and stuff off rocks and little minor things like that. But I think puddles is pretty big for them.
Wow. So the question is, how do you give your pet enough salt so they have the proper stomach acid?
Well, if you feed them just dog food, there should be the proper amount of salt in there. But you can give them a salt lick. You can do that.
Just like you're on the farm.
Hmm. You can buy one from an agricultural store. Your cat will definitely lick it. Your dog probably will. You might have to introduce the dog to it. Once they know it's there, they will use it.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Absolutely, especially a trace mineral salt block.
I think my Doberman needs one. My future
100%.
Doberman.
Well, a lot of these working dogs you were talking about, they will have access to the salt lick. There'll be several salt licks around the farm. There'll be one in the barn or more than one in the barn. Might be one in every single pen. They'll be all
Yeah,
over the place. They'll be able to
yeah,
lick them too.
yeah. Yeah, another thing I see that's getting popular is the slow bowls.
Slow
These,
bowls.
yeah, there's these bowls and they have like mounds that stick up in the middle so that the dog can't stuff its face real quick. You know how a dog will
Okay,
eat its
yeah, yeah.
food in 2 minutes flat? This makes the dog eat it in 7 minutes because it has to kind of maneuver around the mounds, the obstacles.
That's fair too. That's more realistic.
Yeah. So What do you think was the big breakthrough for Dr. Wallach when he discovered that animals needed 90 essential nutrients, all of them?
What do you mean by the breakthrough?
What was the first breakthrough? Like the first time he discovered it?
Well, the way he tells it is he was twitching and cramping and stuff, and his mom got worried, brought him to the doctor, the eye doctor. And the eye doctor told him to use a Maybelline eye brush to brush his eyelashes out of the way because the theory was his eyelashes were tickling his eyeballs, and that's what was causing his eyes to twitch. And then he read somewhere in a nurse's handbook or something that uh, cramps and twitches could be involved with mineral deficiency or calcium deficiency. And since he lived on a farm, he knew that the cows were given calcium pellets, calf pellets. So he went home and started eating them because there were no supplements back then. They had farm animal supplements, but they didn't have human supplements yet. This is in the 1940s or early 50s or something like that. I
Mm.
think that was his main aha moment. And then through those years, like this just so happened to be the time that many, many very, very important discoveries were being made in animals, like the essentiality of copper, arsenic, selenium, chromium, like all these happened in the late 40s, 50s. So he just happened to be in school during that time when they were making these huge, huge discoveries on flocks of animals too. Like not controversial at all. Like the half the flock or the whole flock dies. Next year they give them copper. None of them die. Like just completely clear cut stuff. And it was all falling into place at that time. So I think it's partially a matter of being at the right place at the right time.
Right.
He credits
Right.
it to God, right? He doesn't claim that, he had some magical special abilities to come across this knowledge or anything. A lot of it was just circumstances, and he was in the right circumstances at the right time, and he's
Right.
thankful for it rather than
Right.
taking credit for it.
Right. It was in the 1950s they eliminated blood sugar issues in dogs too, right?
Yeah, pretty much immediately in 1957, or it was either 56 or 57 that they discovered chromium is essential for their blood sugar problems, and then it was within a year that it was in like all animal foods. Just they wasted no time at all. They didn't need to convince the FDA of anything or anything like that. It's just, oh, we discovered that hey, they need chromium. Boom, we're putting chromium in. And it was the same with trace arsenic. It was the same with copper. There was no hesitation. Pulled the trigger, fixed the problem immediately in
And
flocks of
selenium,
animals.
selenium came a little after too.
I think it was the same year, actually, 57, that it was discovered. Uh, right around that time, it was discovered to be essential. I don't have that story memorized there, but yeah, it was in the 50s.
Yeah, and then all these diseases in the farm animals and pets gone, gone.
And a lot of these diseases were not old age degenerative diseases, right? They were killing the animals before the animals were like the turkeys. They were meant to be sold for Thanksgiving. They're only supposed to be a year old, and they were not even making it a year.
Right.
The whole flock was dying. In Dr. Wallach's first mass die-off, he's the one that wrote up the first mass die-off from pollution in America, I think maybe in the world. And I think it was a flock of sheep that had all been nitrate poisoned, and they all died on a cold night. Every single one of them died on a cold night, right? So I'm just saying that this is not Alzheimer's. This is not cancer in a 12-year-old sheep. We're talking about 1, 2-year-old sheep here. And we're talking about animals that are not even making it to their first harvest. And so this is obviously completely detrimental to farming. You cannot be a farmer under these conditions. It's just period. This had to be fixed. And it was. Selenium was one of those huge ones. All these nutrients mentioned were huge. They've saved flocks of animals, and the problem has never been repeated.
Incredible. Yeah. 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 How many farm animals even today? How many farm animals today get the sea monster, get fibromyalgia, get diabetes?
None.
None.
The answer is zero. Yeah.
Zero. Farmers are smarter than doctors, or allow me to edit myself. Farmers aren't puppeteered like doctors.
They're
There's
definitely
no
more knowledgeable about this stuff. Every farmer you talk to knows about selenium. Might not know what it is or what it does really, but they know they have to give this to the animal.
right. Have to.
Have to. It's not optional. You will have retarded goats if you don't. You will have to
Right.
shoot those goats if you don't.
Right.
If they survive the birthing process, if they're not rejected by their mother, which they probably will be.
Right. So the mother rejects the baby if it's not right.
Well, in goats specifically, the mother rejects often. It often rejects a baby. Usually the reason given is twins. If you have twins, it usually just picks one and just shunts
Wow.
the other one off to the side. But it could happen with a single birth. It could happen if it's their first birth. And some goats kind of need a little bit of coaching. And I'm not a goat farmer here, but our friend had some goats too. And when they're in a flock, they tend to do better. You know, sometimes the females will kind of help each other out a little bit and sort of kind of show each other the ropes. I don't want to make goats out to be that intelligent. They're not. They're not that stupid either, but I do think it's mostly the twin problem. They don't want twins. They'll just kick one out basically.
Mm.
And if it is a retarded animal, then yeah. And I use the word retarded not in a hateful way. It's just like you look at these animals. If you ever seen a goat that's born with club feet and stuff, or selenium deficiency in general, white muscle disease, it looks retarded. It does not look good. It does not look
Right.
like it would survive on its own, and it will not survive on its own. And the mother will most likely reject it. Won't even bother feeding it.
Wow.
Not so common in other animals. Goats specifically are pretty picky.
Now, earlier you mentioned animal suicide. I've never even heard that before.
No, I
Do
don't think
t-
it's really a thing other than whales beaching themselves.
mm,
But I've
interesting.
thought about this before too. Like, you know, we had snakes. I had a lot of time to think about snakes and lizards. Like, what could be going through their mind? They're sitting there for 3 weeks at a time. A lot of them. They're getting fed once a month. Many of these snakes. If you had a consciousness, that must be a curse. What are you spending your time thinking about as a snake sitting there for 3 weeks without moving? The snake suicide would be very high, in my opinion, because they got
Right.
nothing to do, nothing to think about. They don't have any hands. You know, they can't have any hobbies. If you let them sit there, they will just sit there and be totally fine and outlive the textbook. But what could they possibly be thinking of? What would there be a need for thought for them? But a dog or a cat, dogs and cats are very, very smart. And goats too, by the way. I know I kind of just said they're dumb. They're just not geniuses. They're not going to come up and
You're
show each other
offending the
stuff.
goat people. You're offending the goat people.
One of my favorite thinkers, authors is Rupert Sheldrake.
Yeah.
And one of his books, he's got several books on the subject of his theory of morphic fields. One of his books, one of my favorites, is Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home. And
Mm,
so it's been shown through repeated study, not just by him, but many other people trying to replicate his work throughout the years. It's been shown over and over again that both cats and dogs know when you're coming home beyond any other factors. Like they've tried to rule out, like, can you hear the car? No, you can. They do experiments where they send you, the owner of the pet, out to some random part of town. You're there for a random amount of time, switch cars, do all kinds of things to not give any physical signs. And it's not just like, oh, I come home at 5 o'clock every day, right? They're trying to rule all these things out, getting people to go out at random times in random places in random cars and come back. And when they're videotaping the dog knows the moment that they get the call. It's like it's telepathic. It's literally telepathic. They know the second that the owner forms the thought, okay, I'm going home now. That's when the dog or the cat starts to wait more by the door, starts to go over
mm,
to the window more, or starts to just literally wait by the door. So they have this beyond intelligence, basically. It's we have it too. We have it too. It's just I think they're more in tune with it. But I'm just saying that I think dogs and cats, mammals in general, are way more attuned to just not just regular intelligence like we think about it, problem solving and stuff like that, and communication, but also this extrasensory perception, ESP, which it's been clearly shown that dogs and cats do have. And even Sheldrake admits so far there's really no evidence of this happening in reptiles.
mm. Well, we know elephants are super smart. And orcas, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
orcas might be the ultimate animal besides humans. I mean, those things are just amazing. The true apex predator of the ocean. I
And they
used to
can live
go,
to
I got,
90 years in the
yeah,
wild.
and the women go through menopause too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying women. The females go through menopause, and there's only a few animals that go through menopause.
You know which other ones?
Pilot whales,
Okay.
and some say some primates can. Some, but they have to live long enough.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, a female dog doesn't go through menopause that I'm aware of. A
It's an
female
interesting thing
lion,
to live beyond your reproductive usefulness as well.
right?
You have to have some use. I know this is usually used in evolution talks. I'm not a believer, but they say that, yeah, okay, we have menopause because you're still useful to the tribe when you're older, right? I'm thinking about that with whales, but yeah, I think it's much more than that. I think there's much more to this earth and life too than just reproduction by itself. But yeah, for some reason, us mammals have this pretty special ability, and I don't think it's limited to mammals. Birds as well, extremely intelligent, extremely intuitive. Even all species, even the dumb species, are very intuitive. You'll have a very hard time sneaking up on them or anything like that. It's not just because they can hear great, because they can sense great as well.
Yeah. How long do these little birds live? How are they getting all the nutrients?
Well, they're able to eat high dense foods, worms, insects. Insects are very, very nutrient dense. So are worms. Some birds, like parrots, will go every morning to a clay bank or a salt lick type of thing, a rock where minerals are oozing out in the form of mineral salts. They'll go and they'll lick it off. Especially true in the Amazon, where huge, huge flocks of birds will meet every morning. And the little ones get there early because they know when the bigger parrots get there, they're going to bully them off the rock. So, even before sunrise, you'll get the smaller parrots showing up to the clay bank or
Yeah.
the salt lick or whatever. It's usually a clay bank. And they'll get their fill before the bigger birds come. And then those birds will get their fill before the biggest birds come. And all of them have to fuel up on that clay before they go out in the day. And of
Right.
course, they're eating seeds and nuts and stuff too, which are also quite nutrient dense. And they have the intelligence to do more than just eat what's in front of them, right? They can look around for stuff. And I assume these animals can sense nutrients as well, somehow. That how else would an elephant know to travel hundreds of miles underground to a cave looking for a mineral if it didn't have some sense of what it was looking for?
And then the big birds, the eagles and the hawks, they're looking for the little birds.
And they eat whole animals, right? They eat the
That
entire rodent or the entire snake or whatever, so
I've
they get the
seen,
whole
yeah,
skeleton.
I just a few weeks ago I saw a squirrel snatched right out of a tree by a hawk. Yeah. Quick. It happened so quick.
Well, and that's the way to get the nutrient balance. The optimal nutrient balance is to eat the entire animal, get the skeleton and the organs and the connective tissue, and most birds will eat the entire animal.
It's fascinating how smart and effective big birds are. The eagle's no joke, man. Eagle is no joke. It could be the best hunter on out of the ocean.
It's just looking up vultures while we're on the subject. I did not know vultures could live 20 years in the wild. In the human
Hmm.
care, they can live to their 30s. But isn't that interesting on rotten meat? So as the meat rots, it starts to develop more enzymes and bacteria and stuff as well. And 20 years is very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. That's pretty much like what a horse or a moose lives to. Yeah, horse could get to 30.
How about an eagle?
Moose could only get to 25. Eagle is probably up there as well. 20 to 30 years for a bald eagle.
Wow.
Other species, not so much. 14 for a crowned eagle. But still, that's very, very, very good. And that's with no vegetables or anything as well. But again, people think carnivore species and they think meat, right? We've been programmed to think meat. Whereas no, these animals, these birds, they're not just eating meat. They are eating the organs as well. They are eating the bones as well. And they may get some other nutrients from their water and stuff, puddles and rivers, and it's going to be some other minerals in there. But primarily, I think they're doing it by eating the whole animal, getting that calcium to phosphorus ratio correct.
Right. Got to. That's the problem with humans on the carnivore diet. Better be getting that calcium powder.
So what else were you thinking that we missed from episode 1 on pets?
Oh, no, I think we pretty much covered everything.
It is an interesting subject.
It really is.
You don't get to make a judgment, in my opinion, until the animal or the human dies. That's when the case is closed. The case study is closed. You can now actually study it when the animal dies. Problem is, humans, even when we're sick, we live more than 30 years, most of us, right? So it's hard to get any real concrete data. But these animals, we've had hundreds of years of animal husbandry, agriculture, thousands of years, really. But they don't live that long. So we get to see the difference. Okay, here they are without copper. Oh, guess what? They didn't live to the first harvest season. Here they are with copper. Oh, they did live to harvest season. Oh, and if you pick out some breeders from that, they will live another 10 years. It's just very, very cut and dry. And I said it in the other episode too, but in the pet business, we've seen such amazing things, it's ridiculous things. All the textbooks that we grew up reading telling us how long animals live, we've blown that away for every species you can name. Not even close. We've doubled it at a minimum. We've doubled it for every single species.
Yeah.
So we have perfected this. For some reason, it's more difficult for us with our dogs and cats because just like humans, we have all these different habits and different opinions. When it comes to a rat or a rabbit, if you just give them the pellets, they're going to be fine. Like just completely fine. You're not going to notice a difference between them. Not one's going to get diabetes and the other one doesn't, and you can't explain why. They say it's genetic. None of this stuff. Just your rats are going to do fine. They're all going to live 2 years, 3 years, maybe. Feed them a little bit of lettuce and carrots on top. Not going to see a difference. You start giving them Pop Tarts, you're going to start to see a difference. Pizza
Hmm.
pockets and stuff like that. But yeah, with dogs, it's just I don't know. It's one of the few animals that we give them table scraps. Easy to throw their nutrition off. And the dog business, we saw this change in the last 15 years. It was almost 20 years ago that we were in the pet business. And within that time, dogs went and cats, went from a cheap thing that no one really thought about to a luxury item. I'm talking about the animals themselves and their care. Dog food used to be ridiculously cheap, and a lot of it still is, but we didn't have all these high-end brands before. Now the market is basically kind of taken advantage, I think. And since this is now a high-end good, especially in purebreds, you have upper class people, middle class, upper middle class people owning these dogs, willing to pay more for these dog foods. And it's just a kind of a crime that those higher end dog foods tend to be more lacking than not. And then they try and do extra things. They're also getting them vaccinated and stuff now. We don't need to talk about that, but that's a thing that's contributing to their health, I think. And then yeah,
Hmm.
these upper middle class people, I'm saying they're willing to spend more money on their dogs, buy them more treats, again, buy them the special foods which may not be special, give them a steak, give them a T-bone steak for their birthday and stuff, just all kinds of things that add up to being a problem. But yeah, dogs themselves used to be cheap. A dog used to be $200 at the store,
Yeah.
at the pet store. Brand new puppy, $200, purebred. No big deal. Now, good luck finding a dog for less than $2,000 purebred. You're probably not going
Wow.
to find it. So it's
Wow.
it's shifted from the everyman thing where all you had to do is just give them the pellets just like you would a rat. You wouldn't give
Yeah.
gourmet food to a rat. Just give them the pellets, they'll be fine. We went from that mentality to I'm going to do more, I'm going to pay more. Now it's a luxury item. Once it's a luxury item, you got two industries that can take advantage of that. One is the pet food industries. The second is the veterinarian industry, right? Vet bills have gotten out of control. How many people
That
you
le
know that have gotten a 5,000, 10,000, $20,000 vet
yeah.
bill?
That leads me to my next topic here. If you had a pet, a dog or a cat, would you bring them to the vet yearly?
Not once ever.
Yeah,
Not once ever. Which is
agreed.
illegal
Is
in
it
town.
illegal?
In town,
Wow.
I think
Wow.
so. Hey, Chef Norman, you have to have shots with your dog in town.
Yep.
What about outside of town?
You just give them like ivermectin or the shot, selenium shots we give goats.
But you don't have to legally do anything.
No.
Okay, so in town, according to the bylaws, you have to have your animal vaccinated. Outside of town, in the unorganized townships out there, you can do whatever you want.
What do you mean unorganized townships?
Well, we live in a town that's in the middle of the forest, basically. It's a mining town. So it has lots of bylaws here. We can't have farm animals. You can't build a fence unless you get a permit or whatever. You know, there's bylaws. But as soon as you go outside of town, it's all unorganized. So they still have to call it something, but there's no town hall, there's no police station, there's no fire trucks, there's no street lights, there's no actual town. So if you buy a property outside of town, it's an unorganized township. And so there's no bylaws. You can hunt on your property, shoot guns, blow off dynamite. You can mine the land. You can cut the trees down and log it if you want. You can do commercial activity if you want. There's no bylaws stopping you from doing any of that stuff.
So it's law to go to the vet? That sounds crazy.
That in many places that's completely a law, a bylaw at least to where you live, that not only will you have to have your pets vaccinated and yearly usually, also you'll have to have them spayed or neutered. It's illegal in many places to not have them spayed or neutered, and we talked about that in the last episode, how I think that's problematic too. Neutering animals too early.
Yeah, based on my Google search here, it says to bring them once a year, but it doesn't say it's mandatory.
And I said it in the last episode too, that I just won't get a dog. Not one that's going to have to live in the house. Only if it's going to live outside. And I'm not here half the time, so my circumstance would have to change where I'm actually home full time. But I wouldn't want it. I don't want an animal in the house. I think air quality is a big problem in the homes as well. Again, a lot of people rely on these animals for like emotional support, which was never their original role. And I do think that it's impacted air quality big time inside the home. Air quality is worse inside the home than outside for most people, unless you're in the middle of a downtown core or something like that. I know in our house right now, our air inside is way dirtier than it is outside. So you add an animal into that, compromising your air quality. I don't want to walk a dog. I have stuff to do. I don't need emotional support. I do not need companionship, not from an animal. You know, nothing against animals. I'm just saying it's weird. It's weird to me. I wouldn't get an animal. Definitely not that would have to live inside the house. Chef Norman and I would argue about that if we're gonna get a dog. It's got to live outside, man. It's got to live outside. And no, no
Yeah.
way I'd ever take it to the vet and never get it chipped, never get it vaccinated. No reason to. If it gets a health problem, I'll give it nutrients to fix it, or shoot it if it gets bad enough. I know I kind of sounded
Oh,
like a jerk in the last episode, but that's
Old
what it
Yeller.
is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Are we going to pay $5,000 to fix an animal, or are we going to shoot the animal? I have the money now. I have a different set of. I'm in a different financial position than I used to be. But our last dog, or Chef Norman's last dog, there was one day it must have caught something weird, it was like a tick bite or something. We thought it was dying. It was acting weird. It couldn't stand. It just sat in the bush all day, looking sad and whimpering. And we're sitting there like, what the heck are we gonna do? We had no money. You know, or are we going to take it to the vet and get it? It's going to be a $5,000 bill. We know it's always a $5,000 bill with these people.
That's
So
right.
we're sitting there like, I guess we'll give it a day. We'll give the dog a day, see what happens. We didn't know any of this nutrition stuff back then, but it did miraculously pull out of it. I guess it kind of sensed that dog was real smart, by the way. Buddy the dog was a real smart dog. He must have sensed it, or he must have just gotten over it. His immune system pulled through. I don't know what it was, because the dog was basically paralyzed. And then at the end of the day, it stood up like normal. We don't know what happened, but that was the gist of our conversation. If this dog doesn't stand up in 24 hours, we're going to shoot the dog. And we loved this dog. We both loved this. Chef Norman loved the dog, especially more than anything, you know, and it was a spectacular dog too, not just a normal dog. This was a top tier dog. And still the decision was, we're going to shoot this dog if it doesn't stand up.
Right. Yeah, it's real. It's real
But that's
talk.
my mentality. A lot of people, they don't have that mentality, and it's also illegal to shoot your dog in the city. You know, you can't even just put it down simply like that. You got to pay 500 or $1,000 to put your dog down. And yeah, I would not enter into the responsibility of having a dog with all these things. And if I was, I'm going the natural route. I don't care if it's illegal anyways. I don't think that they're going to come bust us for a dog here, you know. Just because it's on the books doesn't mean they're going to enforce it. But I wouldn't do any of that
Yeah,
nonsense to the dog.
the classic movie Old Yeller, I just looked it up, came out in 1957.
Wow.
And that movie is famous for the ending of the beloved dog being shot behind the barn.
Which is a pretty merciful way to go, by the way. You know, a lot of these dogs, we let them live way past the time when they're enjoying themselves.
And for those that don't know Old Yeller, allow me to read a little tidbit. It says Old Yeller is bitten while saving his family from a rabid wolf. Travis cannot risk Old Yeller becoming rabid and turning on his family, so he has to kill the dog. Old Yeller had puppies with one of Travis's friend's dog, and one of the puppies helps Travis get over Old Yeller's death. That's the movie. Dramatic dog movie.
Yeah, I've never actually seen it. Just heard about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I think this has been a good talk, and I think people get a lot out of it.
I love the topic of animals, by the way. Don't let my last comments fool you in the audience there.
He
I've
doesn't
al-
go around terminating dogs.
no, no, no. I've always been interested in animals, and one of the reasons I don't want to get a pet is because I don't want to be responsible. I don't want its life in my hands. I don't have a job for it to do right now. So what is even the point? To do it for my own mental health seems selfish, especially when I'm not able to commit to giving the dog the exercise it needs and not the life that it needs. It's an animal still. It needs to run, it needs to play, and I'm not down to do that. Don't want to clean up after it. Don't want to take it to the vet. Don't want to take it into my own nutritional hands if it has a problem. I just don't want to be responsible for it. There's enough to be responsible for in life. And it
Right.
is a huge responsibility, and I don't think that's stated enough. A lot of people are just getting a dog or a cat willy-nilly, and it's not just a time investment, right? You hear that a lot. Hey, that's a 10-year commitment. That's a 15-year commitment, right? It's not just time. It's money, it's energy, it's the thoughtfulness to provide it with a proper life. You wouldn't have a baby and keep it in its room the whole time and take it out for 5-minute walks 3 times a day. That's not enough for a baby. It's not enough for a dog. It's not enough for a cat. And a lot of us are getting pets for selfish reasons. And you should really think about it. Is this going to be the type of life that a dog or cat wants? If
Right.
not, maybe get a tiny teacup dog and use the little pee pads, in the apartment or something if you can't be there all the time. Or maybe just don't get an animal.
Yeah. Well said.
It's not a requirement. It was a requirement. If you're a farmer, if you're a homesteader, you absolutely, all of your chickens will die eventually if you do not have a dog to protect them, that you need a dog. Yeah. But other than that, most of us don't. Most of us don't. And if you're trapped in I know we're getting kind of sort of political here. And I know a lot of people have a lot of bad opinions of Grant Cardone, but I like Grant Cardone, and not everything he says, but hey, one thing he said, I don't remember where. He said, "What are you doing with a dog? What are you doing with a dog?" Because a lot of people are complaining, "Oh yeah, but I have to work this much because I'm stuck here in the city. My rent is this, and all the bills keep going up." And I did. So Grant's saying, "Well, what are you doing with a dog then? Because the dog can only hold you back." Oh, I need the companionship. Well, you need to actually hustle yourself to get yourself into the position in life where you can take care of another animal properly. And a
Right.
lot of people, I know, I have a lot of friends that got dogs when they were 16, 18, 26, whatever. They weren't at where they need to be in life. And so you're semi abusing the animal by not being able to give it the life it needs. And you're
Right.
also putting an anchor on your own ankle. You're not able to do what you need to do to really get yourself to where you need to go in
Well,
life.
it's like poor people having children too. It's the same type of thing.
Yeah, if you can't take care of yourself properly, what are you doing with an animal? But yet there's so many people out there who cannot take care of themselves and yet they have an animal. And this is just something that shouldn't become so normal in our
Right.
society, especially for
Right.
people who have no actual need for an animal. You do not have chickens to protect. You do not have mice in your apartment or something that your cat needs to take care of. And we have mouse traps. We have a couple of mice come in a year. We kill them with mice traps. We don't need a cat. It's not necessary. It's not the best life for the cat, anyways, or the dog.
Cool. Well, it's been a good talk. I appreciate the time.
I always appreciate talking with you as well, Dr. Reese. Do you have any closing words for the audience?
Not really. Peaceoverpain.com.
Peaceoverpain.com. We should tell them that Dr. Reese and his team, they do have a program. They do help people with their nutrition, their posture, their mindset. It's sort of a full body health program that you can sign up with them. You can check that out at peaceoverpain.com. You can get your discovery done where
Yes.
they look at your
Yes.
posture pictures and
Mhm.
kind of talk you through what's going wrong and what you might need to do to correct that. And if you do go on with their program, they will give you an exact program of how to fix that postural problem. Postural problems can have a lot to do with your health. It's not just nutrition. And that's why I like Dr. Reese, that he combines these things together. Because I know I do nutrition full time. Nutrition is not everything. It's extremely, extremely important, but there's more things that you should know, and posture is one of them. And Dr. Reese's program has helped me big time, by the way. Big time. Not only corrected my hip dysplasia, my duck feet, which doesn't sound like a big thing, but it's a symptom of a much larger misalignment. Fixed that. But now I'm also conscious of my posture throughout the day. Even right now, as we speak, I'm sitting up. You know, I'm probably not perfect posture, but it's much better than it used to be because I wasn't conscious of this before. But after doing his program, I always have to think about it. When I'm sitting, when I'm driving, when I'm leaning onto one side, I'm always thinking, hey, this is throwing me off. I should straighten myself out. So it's been very beneficial for me. You can check it out, peaceoverpain.com. You can read his books, especially Peace Over Pain, the book, which gives you an excellent overview of all this stuff. You can check out lots of testimonials on their website as well. He posts a lot of content across multiple platforms, and those links will be in the description as well, by the way.
You know, we have a content library, and we number all the videos, you know. My selfie videos where I just talk to the camera, that I've become a little known for. We reached 700 of those.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
I know, it's a lot to keep track of too.
There's a lot of slow talking Dr. Reese out there. A lot of trigger videos out there.
Yeah, there is some things that you say and that we both say that upset some people, but that's okay. We're not going to appeal to everyone, and those people who do want help and do resonate with the message, you can reach out to either of us to help you, either Dr. Reese's team or myself. And all of my information is in the description as well. Just briefly, remember that you can find everything that I do on my website, notusbooks.org, including the books that I've written and helped publish, and the free audiobook versions of those books, hundreds of book reviews, most of them are about health, all the channel links that we have on Instagram and YouTube, all that stuff is on my website, notusbooks.org, as well as an archive of this podcast. And you can download those episodes for free on the archive, notusbooks.org. Once again, Dr. Reese, thank you so much.
Right on, man. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Stay healthy, my friends. Until next time.